I'm Chuck Chvala, former Senate Majority Leader.
And I'm Scott Jensen, former Assembly Speaker.
We're the insiders. So, Scott, we're at the end of the year here. Give me your top takes. What were the top stories from this past year?
Well, I'll give you one story about something that happened and one about something that didn't happen. Clearly, the coronavirus crisis is the top story of the year of 2020, without a doubt. I mean, the tragic loss of lives, the devastation to small businesses across the country, the loss of learning, the mental health impacts. Those are all just horrible stories that help make this just one of the worst years we can remember in a long, long time. So that will clearly be the top story of 2020. I think the other top story of 2020 was in the elections, the blue wave that we heard about that never materialized. We heard about it all year long from all the pundits and the pollsters and the media, that there's this big blue wave coming. The Democrats were going to take the United States Senate, rack up their numbers in the House, and Biden was going to win. Well, Joe Biden did win, but everything else kind of seemed to have gone the Republicans' way, with the United States Senate picking up 14 seats in the U.S. House, picking up legislative chambers around the country, and even here in Wisconsin, adding seats to their majority in the state Senate. So I'd say those are the top two stories.
I think that Scott's right on both counts, but I also think that you cannot ignore that Wisconsin was part of the bigger story of Donald Trump taking American democracy to its edge and nearly crushing American democracy. And I think that even Republicans were outraged and surprised at what happened there. And what was really interesting, and you got to see what happens in authoritarian regimes, where Republicans were unwilling to take a stand against that. And it was a really odd time. And we're now hearing stories about what people thought privately, even in the Republican Party, versus what they were saying publicly, and what Donald Trump did. And unfortunately, it does look like our court system and even Republican elected leaders in Georgia did to help make sure that that didn't happen. But hey, we've got to look beyond that to next year. So Scott, what are your take on the big stories for next year? What do you anticipate will be coming down the pike?
Well, I'm afraid coronavirus is going to continue to be the top story of 2021, but it's going to be an interesting tale in next year. I think the first half of the year, we will continue to see the tragic impacts of this virus, and you'll see long-standing family businesses, names you've heard for years, that will go out of business, and that will just be tragic. More people will lose their lives, tragic as well. But in the second half of the year, I think we're going to see a comeback, and not only in the economy in general, but in the hospitality and the entertainment industries, tourism, things that are all important here in the state of Wisconsin. I think we're going to see a resurgence in those areas, and hopefully we can kind of get back to life as it used to be in the second half of 2021.
I agree with Scott. I think the coronavirus will continue to dominate. I think the tragedy, of course, number one, is with the loss of life and the many, many thousands of people beyond that who will have terrible long-term injuries for what they've suffered through with the coronavirus. And then also the also sad things about businesses that will, poor small businesses and the people who own restaurants and the people who work for these people who own the restaurants. Oh, the awful devastation there. And I hope that can give us all a greater appreciation for our need to reach out to our fellow human beings and hopefully a more compassionate society, that we maybe get back to a little bit more compassion for each other. I think that's big. But the other thing politically I think we should be watching is there's going to be a very interesting dynamic here with Mitch McConnell running the U.S. Senate and how that plays out with Joe Biden and the Democratic House and in Wisconsin. Are we finally able to get Robin Vos and Governor Evers together to get some things done? I hope that they will both act, and I have to say I believe that it falls more on Robin's shoulders to determine whether he's willing to let anything get done in this state other than what is his own party line interest. And I think that if we can do that, I think we can have a great year. I believe economically we're going to come shooting out of this in April or May, and I think the state will be doing really well. And I hope that we will be able to put the tragedy in the rearview mirror and try to build.
Well, here's one headline I think we can both agree on we want to see in 2021. Packers win the Super Bowl.
I love it. I love it. See you next time.